Good evening, you're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Faye Kwan. The Health Ministry has reported one new Mpox virus infection of the Clade 2 variety in the country today. The ministry says the patient has been isolated and is currently in stable condition.
The case, a less severe variant of the disease, was detected on Monday in a man who began showing symptoms of fever, sore throat and cough on September 11th, with a rash appearing the following day. Malaysia has detected 10 cases of Mpox, previously known as monkeypox, since July 2023, all of which are of the Clade 2 variant. A new form of the virus has triggered global concern as it seems to spread easily through routine close contact, leading to flu-like symptoms and pus-filled lesions. According to the Health Ministry, the patient, a Malaysian national, had not travelled abroad in the 21 days prior to the onset of symptoms. It added that all contacts of this patient are being identified and their health status will be monitored according to strict standard operating procedures.
Authorities have frozen a total of 96 bank accounts linked to Global Equine Services and Business Holdings or GISB worth 580,000 ringgit. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Razaruddin Hussein says 8 vehicles were also confiscated in connection to the probe.
Sehingga kini sebanyak 96 akaun melibatkan GISB yang kita kenal pasti dan kita trace. Yang mana jumlah yang kita bekukan aset ini lebih kurang RM581,552. 31 sen telah dibekukan di bawah Seksyen 44.1 Amlafa 2021 dan sebanyak 4 akaun telah pun ditutup.
Razaruddin said police would submit 3 investigation papers related to the case to the Attorney General's chambers for further action. He added that they would apply for a remand extension for 155 suspects to facilitate further probes. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim urges political leaders and the business community to acknowledge the impacts of climate change and to take action to address these issues through policy and decision-making. He was speaking during the Malaysia SDG Summit 2024 at Plenary Hall, Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre earlier today.
Failure to accept that catastrophe due to rape of the jungle, to the decision by political leaders or business community to ignore the calamities as a result of our failure to address environmental issues and concerns. Now, if our decision is purely in the interest of profit or survival in terms of competitiveness, in terms of purely economic considerations or economic imperative, then of course we are not able to achieve this. But if we understand the challenge of post-normal times, that we have to deal with some of these issues now, massive migration, massive disaster caused by either failure to address concerns on climate or issues as a result of leaders, political decisions which ignore the importance of compassion and justice.
TikToker Abang Bas, who faces 3 counts of sexual assault and uploading offensive posts, has been released on bail at the Muar Court. This comes after the 24-year-old's family completed the total bail payment of 40,000 ringgit.
Last Tuesday, the bus driver pleaded not guilty after 2 charges were read out to him before Judge Sayani Muhammad Noor. The Sessions Court in Muar then allowed him to be bailed for 30,000 ringgit for 2 charges, while the Sessions Court in Batu Pahat granted bail of 10,000 ringgit for 1 charge. Abang Bas spent more than a week in a temporary detention centre due to his inability to pay the imposed bail, causing his family members to appeal to the public for donations. He was charged with physical sexual assault by kissing the cheek of a Standard 4 girl, who is also his niece, for sexual purpose on a school bus in Simpang Regam, Keluang from April to September 2024. He was also charged with repeated surveillance of a 9-year-old girl for sexual purposes on the same school bus this month. If convicted, he could face imprisonment of up to 10 years, a fine of not more than 20,000 ringgit or both.
Prolonged heavy rain and strong winds in Penang over the last 3 days has caused flash floods and nearly 200 trees to fall across the state. The Malaysian Meteorological Department forecasts the storms to continue until tomorrow.
Penang Chief Minister Chow Kon Yeow said fallen trees were reported in 133 locations on the island since Sunday. Flash floods were also reported in 71 locations on the mainland today. Clan jetties around Welki were also damaged after being hit by strong waves around noon. Kon Yeow said no temporary evacuation centres have been opened so far, but preparations were in place for any eventuality. Visitors have been advised against visiting the jetties and coastal areas during high tides.
Australia intends to set a minimum age limit for children to use social media, ranging from 14 to 16 years old. What can Malaysia learn from this? We speak to Dr. Benjamin Loh, Senior Lecturer at the School of Media and Communication at Taylor's University, about the necessity of such laws.
On the issue of social media limit, I do agree that we do need to have restrictions, but as with anything else that we think about, how exactly are we going to have this enforced? That's always going to be the biggest concern. And if you do not have a means of actually enforcing that properly, then you end up pushing people who will otherwise have very easy access into much more dangerous ways of accessing it as well.
Instead of restricting young Malaysians from using social media, Benjamin believes it is more crucial to educate parents and children on the safety and dangers of those platforms.
It is more important to actually try to improve the environment, or rather focus on educating the parents to ensure that even if the kids do want to access earlier, that the parents are actively monitoring, actively keeping control, and to understand the dangers of what's involved, and maybe also to focus more on education so that if the kids do get involved either on their own or for peer pressure, they actually have a better understanding about the dangers that are present on social media at a very young age. But the problem with, if you do put restrictions in place, you then end up forcing these youth to either go through it in a way that is more secretive, or they tend to use more, informal or illegal methods to access, which then expose them to a different range of dangers and risks. In lieu of having a way of trying to enforce it properly, it makes more sense not to go that route, but instead focus more on education, focus more on building awareness about the dangers and perils of using social media at a very young age. Because again, children, teenagers even at that age are still developing, and they're forming a lot of the way that they see the world through their interactions around them. And social media is one of those key places that they're going to be absorbing a lot of that new information.
We'll be back with more after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The death toll in the wake of Typhoon Yagi in Myanmar has doubled to 226, with 77 others still missing. The United Nations warns that more than 500,000 people are in urgent need of assistance.
Yagi swept through northern Vietnam, Laos, Thailand and Myanmar over a week ago, bringing powerful winds and torrential rain. It triggered severe floods and landslides, killing more than 500 people across the region. In Myanmar, the storm ravaged 9 states and regions, including the country's capital of Naypyidaw. With hundreds of thousands of acres of crops destroyed, the UN said some 630,000 people were in dire need of food, drinking water, shelter and clothes. Since seizing power in 2021, the ruling military junta has lost control of large parts of the country, creating an unstable patchwork and governance. That, coupled with poor communication in remote areas, has slowed reports on casualties. The junta issued a rare appeal for foreign help over the weekend, with neighbouring India the only country to respond so far by sending food, clothes and medicine.
Meanwhile, Dominic Pellico, the Frenchman accused of drugging his wife and recruiting dozens of strangers to rape her for nearly a decade, has admitted to various criminal charges. He appeared in court today with a cane, returning to the dock after being ill for the past week. Pellico was scheduled to testify last week in a case that has shocked the nation, but his appearance was delayed due to health issues. His lawyer said he was suffering from the onset of a kidney infection. However, a medical exam ordered by the presiding judge found him fit to appear in court, preventing further postponement of the hearings. On Tuesday, he admitted to being a rapist and acknowledged that the 50 other defendants in the mass trial, whom he recruited online to rape his wife Giselle while she was unconscious, were also aware of their actions. Some of the accused have admitted that Pellico informed them that he was drugging his wife, while others claim they believed they were participating in a consensual fantasy by the couple. Tupperware Brands is preparing to file for bankruptcy after a year-long effort to revive the business. According to Bloomberg News, the company faces mounting debt and a sharp decline in demand for its once iconic plastic containers.
A household name synonymous with food storage, Tupperware has reportedly reached over $700 in debt. While lenders initially gave the company some leeway earlier this year, business continued to deteriorate despite attempts to restructure and appoint new leadership. Tupperware first introduced its plastic products in 1946 when founder Earl Tupper invented their flexible airtight seal. The brand posted negative sales growth for 5 out of the 6 years before COVID-19, although the pandemic temporarily boosted sales as people stuck at home turned to meal prepping and storing leftovers. However, the company still struggled to regain its footing. In June, it made plans to shutter its only U.S. factory and lay off almost 150 employees.
That wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Faye Kwan. Thank you for watching and good night.